How would I describe LandSea? Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot of things to me.
I'm ready.
LandSea is a 18-day wilderness pre-orientation program that's open to all incoming students at Kalamazoo College. Which combines elements of backpacking and canoeing.
It gives students the opportunity to challenge themselves, to learn new technical skills, to be able to improve those skills.
So one more thing about the climbing site.
To improve their leadership styles, their social skills. It's just like a space to learn and to prepare them as they transition to Kalamazoo College as well.
It wasn't ever a question whether I was participating in LandSea. If I was coming to Kalamazoo College, I was participating in LandSea. I looked at the program for about 5 seconds. I said, "You're absolutely right, Dad. I'm going on LandSea if I choose Kalamazoo College."
Okay, high fives. Nice.
And I think it was actually a really big push to why I chose Kalamazoo College. It was just something extra that a lot of the other colleges that I looked at didn't have.
Everyone's gonna need it.
Everyone knows. DNT designated nap.
But I had a really good time. I learned a ton of new skills. I gained a ton of confidence before college, especially because I was coming from Florida, so I knew nobody coming to school here. So it was really nice to have sort of established friendships already through that sort of 18-day very unique experience. I knew that I had solid friends going into orientation, so I think that took a lot of the pressure off. My incentive to become a leader my sophomore year, again, it wasn't even a question in my mind. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to be a LandSea leader. It was just a matter of applying and getting it.
I participated in LandSea my incoming year. That was 2015.
What if?
I don't know, I'm tired, man. I decided to do it because I was like, wow, this sounds cool. I'm gonna go camp for 2 to 3 weeks, and I had never camped before.
Yeah. Are we sure we're sure we're going to talk about it? Because maybe they're separate. Maybe we'll definitely talk about what we're
Yeah, that was
I feel like my experience was really, looking back on it, it was this weird, lucid dream.
Whereas my participant year, I was very open and opinionated and Which part of the community
The thing about LandSea that I really loved is that it taught me the strength of my body, and it taught me the strength of my mind. Because you're doing these really incredible things. You're carrying 50 pounds on your back, you're with a small group of people, and you're moving across mountains, and you're moving across lake chains and rivers and stuff, all with minimal supplies.
First night moved in, yeah.
It was something that was really cool because it's if I can do this, I can almost do anything. Made me super thankful for everything that my body can do and how cool bodies are. Careful.
Or maybe just kind of lure the rest of us up.
No, I did not participate in LandSea as a first year. The summer before coming to Kalamazoo College, I did an outdoor expedition, but through another organization, which is why I did not end up doing it as a first year. Yeah, when I heard about LandSea, I knew it was like camping. You're camping around, you're moving, you're backpacking and canoeing. You're pooping in the wilderness. I knew it was like a lot of like outdoor stuff. And I just figured it's like you're out in the wilderness camping with a group of people for 16 days.
On LandSea, there are a lot of activities. They're all outdoor related. So we do things ranging from hiking, which is like the most basic one. Personally, my favorite. I love to hike. And then that can also go to like canoeing.
Went on like a 14-mile kayaking trip. Oh, wow. That was cool. That's fun.
For certain groups, there's stand-up paddle boarding. It's LandSea. You go on the land, you go on the sea. And like in the middle of the program, one of like the biggest ones, I think, one of the most special ones is like rock climbing.
So Climb and Rappel is a day that is set for folks to set some new goals for themselves, potentially challenge themselves a little bit.
A demand.
Maybe do something that scares them a little bit or that they didn't think that they would be able to accomplish before they came up there. And then learn some skills and some tools that they're able to use that lets them feel comfortable engaging in that activity with the support of their groups who would be belaying them or holding them up by the rope.
You go up to this like slab rock surface and you get to like scramble up on real rock, which is actually really fun. It's much different than a climbing gym.
You're doing great, Micah.
And it, like a lot of people have never climbed before. That's part of what makes LandSea, it's a part of the personal growth thing, because it's like if you've never rock climbed before and you climb to the tallest wall on a sheer rock face, your friends you've been there with in the woods are belaying you and like you're trusting your life in their hands and on that rope, and then you climb up to the top, everybody's cheering for you when you get there. It's like it's a really good experience. So that's one of my favorite ones.
So it consists of a half day of climbing and then also some time set aside to complete one rappel, which is basically lowering yourself over the edge of a cliff down to the ground.
Excuse me? You got it, Julia. Nice! Yeah, Julia!
So at the end of the whole experience, everybody's done hiking, everybody's done rock climbing, and everybody's done canoeing. And there's this optional solo or service experience. So we prep the participants a lot in advance, give them time to think about their choice and stuff like that. You can choose to do service on the park and the area that we use, which is really, really awesome because we are, you know, as much as we try not to leave a trace, we do leave a little bit of a trace. So it's nice to be able to sort of like pick up and beautify the area that we're using. And then the other option is solo. So you can choose to do that for 24 or 48 hours, and you just spend that time alone in the woods. It's after your whole LandSea experience, but before college, and I think that's a really influential and impactful time in somebody's life. It's really interesting to be able to sort of take that time to reflect. You almost never get that amount of time to yourself to think in this world, and you definitely won't in college. You know, it's hard to get that time, so it's really, really cool that we get that opportunity in a sort of environment that's safe. This college transition is big, and you just went through a big experience, and though you might not realize you need it, I think it's a really cool time to do some reflecting and some thinking. But that's just me.
So a brief history of the program. Kalamazoo College hired Dr. George Rainsford, I think in 1972, somewhere around there. And his background was that he had been involved with Outward Bound in Colorado while he was living there, and really saw the power of young people being outdoors, and saw how there's many things you can learn from being outdoors that you can transfer to real life, and really felt that it would be a great addition to Kalamazoo College.
I don't know, whenever I'm trying to develop my leadership style, this is the thing that I most come back to.
Try it. This might stretch us a little bit as far as what we've done before, but it hasn't.
At that time, the concept of outdoor orientation was just sort of just getting going. And so in 1973, they got a grant from Great Lakes College Association to buy some equipment and to pilot a trip. They did it in Porcupine Mountains State Park up in the UP. After they did that inaugural trip, they kind of compared their notes and they decided that was a really great experience for everybody. So in 1974, they offered a trip. They ran it in Pictured Rocks, and it didn't involve Outward Bound anymore, so they're trying to figure out what to call it. And so they called it Michigan by LandSea. After they did that one year, they decided that Pictured Rocks was a little too small of a park for the program. So they moved it up to Killarney Provincial Park up in Ontario, where it stayed for the next 35 years, basically. The program was in Killarney Provincial Park for 35 years and developed a strong connection to that park. It also, along the way, picked up canoeing as an activity very early, and then also picked up tall ship sailing as an element on the Great Lakes. Sailing was part of the program until 2007, I believe. I think 2006 might have been the last year of it. And once it moved outside of Michigan, they thought, well, we can't call it Michigan by LandSea anymore. So it became LandSea, which then became Land/Sea, which has now become LandSea.
I joined the program in '92. So 92 and then all the way until 2011. So that's pretty much about 20 years at Killarney Provincial Park in Canada. Eventually I was going to start out as a leader for the first time. But the director had some other ideas, so he decided to put me in what we would call at that time the logistics team, where I was able to help them with shuttling people, training new leaders, resupplies, numerous of things. Some of the things that my primary job during the program was I'm a climb and a rappel instructor. It took me 4 or 5 years before I get the full picture to gain the idea of what the program is all about, so that way I can be able to pass that information to the leaders and interaction with these participants. My greatest area of interest is during the what we call the leaders training. This is something where I have a close relationship with the leaders. Those are my close-knit group of family, I should say. I wouldn't say friends, but family. This is something that we learn together. This is something that we learn in so many aspects of what we need to cover to prepare ourselves to pass that to the participant and make sure the participant enjoy their experience.
So in 2010 was the last year in Killarney Provincial Park up in Ontario. I went looking for a new park and moved to Algonquin Provincial Park for 1 year, which is when I came on board. I ran that there for 1 year, and the logistics it didn't quite work for us. And there was a lot about the old program that they couldn't do in Algonquin. We felt like we were an important part of this program, and so we started looking for a new home. The Adirondacks were one of those places where in some ways we could kind of recapture some of the parts of the old program that we lost in Algonquin. And thought that it would be a good place to set up for a while.
For incoming students, I think some of the positive things that come out of the LandSea program are definitely like just basic like life skills, like time management and interpersonal skills, self-care, responsibility over one's things. So those basic skills and lessons are really important going into college, and that's something that like is really hammered in. And I think that's something that most of the students who go on LandSea benefit from.
In my opinion, the LandSea program provides a ridiculous amount of personal growth to participants, just kind of first off. I personally think being in the wilderness with other people, just being like stripped of what you normally have in your life, like maybe your cell phone or like all your modern amenities, and being with other people and just kind of like experiencing what life is about.
So cute. That's some quality. The many
It's just like a good, wholesome, fun time, and you just have like pure human interaction, and like you're interacting with the environment. It's like literally getting back to your roots, I suppose. And I think that's really good for facilitating personal growth because you can be very reflective and like introspective about yourself.
So I didn't have the advantage of having an outdoor orientation program when I started college, and I think that, you know, in offering LandSea and being part of LandSea, I can really see the benefits to that. What I do believe in is the power of being outdoors with folks where you are responsible to each other and need each other in order to kind of accomplish the simple tasks of the day of feeding yourself and getting yourself to a place to sleep and putting up your shelter and all that kind of stuff. There's something that's really, I don't know, simple but also gratifying about that, and allows you to kind of maybe just kind of focus on the here and now and not so much in the future or the past. And being able to do that with folks who are kind of all on the same page is a really cool experience, and I think that it really is kind of ripe for developing a unique relationship with folks that can carry over into your first, you know, year of college or your first few weeks or whatever it needs to be.
I feel like with LandSea, like seeing a bunch of the first years come in, you see the photos and you hear people, you know, with inside jokes and talking about it all the time. And I don't think any of that's wrong, but you see the beautiful nature shots and you see the summit, but you don't see the whole way up, you know, and you don't see the time that it was just a torrential downpour. And you don't get to see sort of like the character building it brings and the bonds it creates, because you're going through hard experiences. No matter what your level of experience is, it's going to be tough in certain aspects, whether that's socially, whether that's physically, emotionally, mentally, any of that stuff. It's going to be really hard.
3, 2, 1.
And I think what we don't see and what we don't talk about enough that people, I hope, get out of LandSea is that feeling of accomplishment and that feeling of agency. A lot of the idea behind LandSea is this lead from behind idea. So as leaders, we know all the skills, we go through the training and everything like that, but once we teach the skills to the participants, we sort of allow them to take it and run with it, right? They're leading the group for the day. They're using the map, they're using the compass, they're taking us there, they're assigning tasks, they're cooking, they're cleaning, everything like that. And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about how kind of nuts it is that we just let them be at the front of the pack and lead us. And make mistakes and be cool with those mistakes. Let's just try something, right? You've never hiked before? Great, let's try it. You've never canoed before? Great, let's try it. It's hard, it's tough, but you're doing it together and you're gonna get there. And, you know, as cliche as it is, the summit is really great and the end is really great and the photos are really great, but I think what's even better is the whole journey along the way. And being forced to bond with people you didn't know before and you've never met and you might not have anything in common with and you might never speak to again after LandSea, but you are forced to work together, and I think that's really powerful.
I think that there's some barriers to participating in LandSea for sure. The length of the program is one. Being gone for 18 days of your summer can be an issue for some folks. Also, it might just seem daunting to be gone that long when maybe nothing else that you've done has been that long. The perceptions of the intensity of the trip, I think, can be a mental barrier in a way, feeling like it's just more than I've ever even considered doing, and so I'm not sure if I can do it. I think that, you know, in the ways that we talk about the trip, there are parts of it that are intense or can be physically challenging, can be mentally challenging, can be socially challenging to live with folks for that amount of time. And I think we want to make sure and be honest about that in how we talk about the trip and promote the trip. But I also know that there are many folks that might see that or hear that and feel like they can't do it then. And in reality, the trip is really geared to a variety of folks, and that there's a lot of folks, I would say most people that I talk to after the trip usually say, I didn't think I could do that, and doing it like really surprised me, and it made me think that I can do more.
So good.
Nice.
Very light though.
And so I do think that the length and the intensities can be a barrier.
Oh, you do a video? Higher. Nice, Maddie.
I don't think you have to be a certain person to want to do LandSea. A lot of LandSea is like being in a community and being with people and taking care of other people. It's not necessarily like, let's go hiking. I'm like, let's go just like summit this mountain, which part of it is, that's a little bit of it. But the big part of LandSea is like, we are here to take care of each other and help each other go through this really big adventure.
I thought you had left without us because we were taking too long.
Oh no.
You didn't look like you thought you got time to like, look at that. No, it's okay.
I think LandSea just put me on a completely different track than I anticipated.
It's a way to push yourself a lot.
Feeling like an urgency.
To say, you know, maybe I'm not used to sleeping in this environment or whatever it is, hiking or canoeing or whatever the hard thing is for a person, and saying, I have to. And I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna get through it with my friends that I've made and the leaders who are guiding me, and I'm gonna find my own way to do it. But everybody at the end of the day is making it, and everybody's making sure that everybody's making it. And I think that that is a really important part of LandSea, that sort of camaraderie and togetherness through whatever the experience is, even if it's perfect, which it never is.
LandSea, for me personally, is just like being put into a new environment with people who come from different backgrounds. And that can be challenging sometimes, especially when you're like in an outdoor setting, so there's less structure. But I think it also provides the opportunity for a lot of growth. And to just like venture out, challenge yourself, try new things. There's a lot of big things you do, but there's also like the opportunity to like enjoy the very small things, from like building a campfire to stargazing or star tipping. I think it's a chance to make a lot of great memories.
LandSea to me is just a really wholesome program that gives something to students in life at like a very valuable time for them. Something that there's not a lot of in this society nowadays, I think, and that's just like being outdoors and learning how to live for yourself and learning how to interact with people like on a basic level.
Just fostering that, like what you were saying, just like
And realizing kind of that there's more to life than just the modern world. There's just something really special about being in the woods. And I think LandSea is just about helping people grow up for themselves, helping people like self-actualize, see what they can really do, and then also facilitating a bond with nature. Like, I think everybody should have some sort of bond with nature, and that can be different for everybody.
For me, LandSea was very powerful, and it taught me a lot about myself. And it made me very grateful for all of the things that had led me to where I was in that moment, and it still does. It's this time of the year where I can just kind of like be reminded of like self-love and love for nature and love for the people that I'm surrounded with. And it's really refreshing and like grounding. And that's why I keep coming back.
It's all in my heart. LandSea is my heart. It's beautiful, it's pretty impressive, it's awesome. It is very beneficial, and I can see why it'd be very, very helpful, because you are creating your own leaderships. You can create a leadership within your own patrol. You get to know and learn how you can be able to collaborate, and it's very diverse. You get to know some of your classmates from all parts of the country. This is going to be your friend for life. It's just a beautiful place to be. It's a place that you can get away from phones, texting, laptop, anything modern. You're just back to earth, and it's just beautiful.